Dent.
And it's saying that we're live now, but they're going to have a delay. So hello, everybody. Welcome to CosTalk Live. It is December. We're festive. We're tired, but we're ready to go. And this week we have two additional guests who are above us. This way. I swear I'll get used to pointing. And they are amazing, experienced shop cosplayers, all of the above, creators, fabricators, whatever you want to call them. So we'll go ahead and have them introduce themselves. Amy, let's go ahead and start with you since you're first on my list.
I'm Amy. I'm Steve's wife. I'm basically the assistant. I've done cosplay since Halloween when I was first a kid realizing what dress up really was. So
Awesome.
I've been in it for a while. I'm almost 50. So yeah.
Cosplay is for everybody. See, cosplay's for everybody. Okay, yeah. Steve, your turn. Mr. Wario.
Mr. Wario. Hi, I'm Steve. I've been on and off with the cosplay scene type thing. I mainly do props. My experience was back in the day when they had garage kits for modelers and stuff like that, and that's what got me into props. But yeah, I do a lot of cosplay for like first robotics competitions and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. That means you'll have some more engineering knowledge because that's something all of us could always use more of.
Yeah.
So I will do your coding if you build the engineering stuff. All right. Kii-Chan?
Hi, everyone. I am Kii-Chan Cosplay, the Pacific Northwest cosplayer. And I'm very happy because whenever I refer to my shop parents or my workshop or mom and dad, this is who I'm talking about. They're not my real genetic parents, but I've spent a lot of time in their workshop and a lot of lives. And I feel very thankful and excited to actually be able to show off the people who've taught me a lot of what I know. All of my building, my props, that experience usually comes from being in and out of the workshop. I'm still learning, and every day, every time I go in there, I feel like there's some new great experience I get to learn about, and it's very exciting. So this is a big episode for me, but I'm really excited to show off my Pacific Northwest life. So yeah.
The thing is she's talking about always learning something. Well, when she's in the shop, we're learning along with her, and that's always
True.
fun.
Learning is a group project, the best. All right, Jinx.
Hi guys.
Jinx, I believe you need pom-poms today.
You know what? I was running late, so I don't know where they are, but I do have pom-poms. Hello guys, I'm Jinx Cosplay. I've been cosplaying since 2001, primarily like California events, and then eventually a couple international. And then I'm wearing this really awesome costume from our sponsor Cosplay Company. So it's the Riverdale cheerleader outfit. Thank you so much, Cosplay Company. Guys, don't forget CosTalk Live is the code that you can use to get 15% off. So company using the code CosTalk Live. They are awesome.
And I totally forgot to post the list of shopping places. I will do that tomorrow. I'm sorry.
After our last episode.
Let's just say that I do audits at work, and I had like one more week left, and that's like the hard stuff. And so my brain was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I know I posted on some of my social media some of the places that I enjoy shopping at, so you can always check out my social media.
Yeah, if you guys send me
the links, Christmas, like this cosplay stuff can be year-round. So like,
if you guys send me the links, like I'll put it together. So
birthday, Christmas, everything.
Just want to say hi. You want a gift here? I am Sam from ThermoCosplay. I've been cosplaying since 2014. I got it right this day. Yay. So 6 years, but in that 6 years, I've made over 55 costumes, and I have used just about every product out there. I've been sponsored by Warbla, Wonderflux World, the cosplaysupplies.com, and I'm currently sponsored by the Cosplay Pros of Arizona. So hello, everybody. So today we're talking about maturing into cosplay. So that can mean multiple things. That can mean like I started at this level and I've grown up here, or I started when I was 12 and now I'm 50, or I started when I was I was 25 and now I'm only 30. Growth is still any kind of growth, and maturing in cosplay has different definitions. And we wanted to bring in different age groups today. So we're all kind of in different age groups. Well, Jess and I are in the same sort of age group. So we're the same age group down here at the bottom. But
I'm the baby.
we're all covering different generations here, right? We've got like
early 20s. So
kind of like in between Gen Z and millennial. You're like right on that cusp, and then we've got millennial.
I am a millennial.
I think we've got Gen X above us. So like we're showing all this over here. So we're just showing you that anybody.
Boomers, and I'm like, I'm not that old, man.
No, boomers are what, like in the
like 70s. I think
50s?
70s, 80s.
It's a frame of mind for some people.
Although I have to say, I identify as a Zennial. I identify as a Zennial. I'm right on the
really right smack tab in the millennial generation. Hi.
I am
like, at the very tail end, but I consider myself an old soul, so I'm a millennial.
There you go.
I don't understand what people younger than me say. Like on social media, I get messages from people, and I'm like, you have to use a complete sentence. I'm sorry, I'm old.
So let me tell you something that I had these two girls that I work with, because I work for princess companies, so they're young princess girls, and I brought them over to my house to like kind of help them get into cosplay. And one of them was 18, and she said something like, "Oh, that hits different." Like she was drinking a glass of water, and I was like, "What? What do you mean? What? Like, what do you mean? What hit you? You know?" She's like, "No, like the water just hits different." And I was like,
That means that it's basically giving her a different refreshing feeling.
Yeah. No, I get it now, but I was like,
being hit by something, it means multiple things. So like hit can be like, oh, this hit me so hard, like, man, it was deep in the gut kind of feel, right? Or this hit me like, man, I needed hydration. Or
it's weird the
like
way
it hit me like
it is
so pissed off hit you. So hit you is kind of like the F word of our generation. Only that vulgar.
Like the new yeet or something. The new
yeet is when things need to be thrown.
Like my mom has an electric chair, and I call that her yeet chair because it can stand you up, right? But it's really slow.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeet chair.
So, Amy, why don't we go ahead and start with you? How did you get started in cosplay?
Actual cosplay. I had seen it on a newscast or something about. I was living back in Hawaii again, and they have this something called Kii-Chan. Yes. Well, I was born and raised there, and Kii-Chan, when we moved back because of the Navy, was just up and coming, and KHON was doing a news segment about all these people who were dressed up in anime, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been watching anime since middle school, because in Hawaii, we had a Japanese dedicated TV show or TV station. So I was watching Robotech, I was watching, and of course this was the Macross, and this was the American, who is that, Harmony Gold and all of that. I've seen Star Blazers, and I can still remember the song, which is anyway. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. And one of the times that Steve was out to sea, I just had the boys dress up. I'm like, hey, who do you want to be? Let's go and do this. And we had a lot of fun. So that was cosplay. But before that, Halloween has always been my favorite, because you felt like you could get away with being as weird and as you want, you know. Yeah. But now it's like I if I want to, I can do this every day. Like I was taking a walk on the boardwalk in Edmonds, by the ferry landing, and there was a gal who was walking her dogs, and she was in full Lolita, and I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. You know, I'm walking with her, and she's like, yeah. She's like, why do I have to wait for Halloween? Why do I have to wait for a convention? I feel comfortable wearing this. I don't mind getting looked at. I don't mind people jeering me. They're still looking at me, and I'm like, it's a way of performance art. Mm-hmm. Awesomeness.
Yeah, I've seen full on, like when the pandemic happened, I literally saw 2 full on stormtroopers shopping because it was like they had their whole mask on, and because we're in Arizona, a lot of them actually already have filtration units built in to handle the sand in our area. And so they were literally just shopping, and they had their speakers on, they're talking to each other, and I'm like, I've never sent me a video of this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's real. So he's like, I saw the troopers again in Arizona. We have the 501st, and we've got a lot of stormtroopers out here. And I was just waiting for Vader. I was like, someone, but Vader's a lot to put on. And I was like, come on, someone, go grocery shopping with Vader.
In the winter, something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've run around like before where I didn't feel like putting a beanie on, so I put on my Merida wig to keep me warm. I've gone shopping in my Merida wig, and so many people are like, your hair is amazing. I'm like, thanks.
I might be jumping the gun, but like I spent a lot of my life dressing up. This was something that was just normal. My parents were very like, hey, wear what you want, have fun. We would dress up and just go to the mall, just in crazy costumes or in cosplay before I knew what the term was. As a young child, this is something I grew up with. And then I want to say it was 2009, a long time ago. I was still a wee babe at that time, but my parents found out that SoccerCon was a thing. And so my dad was very adamant about like, hey, take the kids, I work, but he got my mom to take me and my cousins out to SoccerCon. And that was like the first like experience that I ever had with like a convention in cosplay. And after that, I just fell in love. As somebody who grew up with like anime and video games in my household my whole life, I was always a nerd, but I didn't know that there was this like larger culture outside of my home base. Because being a student, it was one of my older ones. Being a student, there was nobody at school who also cosplayed. There was nobody at school who also watched anime. I was one of the few just because I grew up with that in my household. And so it wasn't until I got into the cosplay community that I started really getting really hardcore into it. That's one of my new ones. That's the maturity there. Like I grew up so well. But I'm really lucky because I did grow up in a household that was very accepting. Oh, so it was 2007. So that is me at SoccerCon 2007 in my Jonin jacket because Naruto was huge back then. And I just embraced it. I kept running. I had parents that were very accepting. I had grandparents that taught me how to sew, and I just kept going and going and going. And now it's been almost 14 years. And I'm still cosplaying. I'm still embracing it. I still love it. It's one of those hobbies that I know will never leave me. I will always enjoy building. I'll always enjoy crafting.
Tell them how we met.
Oh God. So like I love these humans, but I met them through it was in high school. I was going to school with their youngest son. And it was funny because I saw him my first freshman day and I just knew we were gonna be friends. Like I saw the kid run across the schoolyard and I'm like, I have a feeling by the end of the school year I'm gonna know that kid's name and we're gonna be friends. Well, lo and behold, we ended up being a Japanese club together and becoming good friends. Well, school had a parade that went through town, and I was the Japanese club president, so I was putting together our parade group essentially. And this lovely woman comes over to help her son out, and she's doing shibari like knot ties down his arm to build these really cool glaives. And I was just like, who is this human? Goes to introduce herself, and the rest is history. I have a key to their house. Like I'm just always over.
So what she's not telling you is my youngest had hair almost all the way down to his butt, bone straight, strawberry blonde, and he'd run like Naruto, like his arms behind him and stuff, and that's how she knew. That and
I saw him and I'm like, we're gonna be friends.
he was wearing ninja shoes and he's running. He did that. I think he still sometimes does.
I feel like that's how we describe each other. Like in high school, if I run into somebody who I went to high school with, I'm like, hey, do you remember that one kid who ran like Naruto? And everybody knows who I'm talking about.
With his hair flowing behind him. It's like, yeah, I am.
But I'm so glad for that experience. And now like I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am today in my cosplay progress and my props and stuff if I hadn't have met these two. So
Aww,
you were coming
that's
up
so
with
awesome.
Feel pretty cool though. Like you were doing this one gal's God,
I couldn't tell you what I was doing. That was so long ago. I don't remember nothing.
Oh, it was some kind of head thing that it almost looked like Mickey Mouse ears or something.
I don't have the best memory. I don't remember much about the parade. I just remember meeting you because that was kind of that day changed a lot of my life. So
Yeah,
it was fun. It was a lot.
So, Steve, what about you? How did you get started in cosplay?
Oh my God. Well, started off with seeing some people at a movie when I was a kid in a full robot getup and watching little twirly things and so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, I can make that. And my dad went, if you can, but you only can work with what you got. So my first robot was cardboard boxes with aluminum foil covering them up, and dryer ducting for arms and legs and stuff. And I used to walk around doing that. That was when I first started, and that was not even a teen, actually. I was maybe 8 years old when I started doing that. Yeah, and I'm 49. So
there you go.
No idea how long, but yeah. And then from there, I started experimenting with different cardboards. I mean, a knight with a cardboard thing and a cardboard helmet, again, aluminum foil or silver spray paint, that kind of thing. Kind of wish my dad took pictures of them because that would have been awesome to share. But yeah, and then from there, just grew into making ray guns and all that kind of things. And then later on, after that, when I did become a teenager and living in Hawaii, met up with a guy who used to make garage kit models, like one of the shuttles that he made was from oh my God, you guys probably don't even know this show, but there was a series called Space 1999, and they had like these weird, funky.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Yeah, that was one of my first vacuum form projects that I actually made, because back then you couldn't really do a lot of silicone molding because silicone materials wasn't available. Yep, there you go.
Wow.
There you go. So we actually vacuum formed the main body itself, and then after that we made resin kits, and he was selling them. And from there, I just learned up a lot of valuable skills.
That is so cool. I really like sci-fi, so I know a little too much. Like,
oh, when you perked up, I was like, oh, good. I don't feel alone then.
No. Maybe I was one of those kids that snuck out at night and went onto Channel 8 and watched stuff I shouldn't have.
War of the Worlds and hide nightmares. No.
But the way that Amy and I did meet up was when I was in the military, and she was previously married over there. We were in Virginia, and we were gaming geeks. And we just met each other at a gaming store, but she didn't realize that I had a different side of me too. So I was still living on the ship, and I used to participate, if you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, so I used to be riffraff.
But the night that I saw him, he was Frankenfurter. He was Dr. Frank.
Oh, that's amazing!
Wow! Oh my God!
So, yeah, that happened on a fluke because, oh God, now that's going to be an interesting story for you. Okay, that happened to be a fluke because before cell phones came out, we had pagers. So my pager started buzzing off. So I went to the payphone because I was still living on board a Navy ship at the time. And when I called up the person that's usually heading up the general monthly Friday Rocky Horror Picture Show over at the Narrow in Virginia, I got this panic call. Hey, we don't have Frank today. I'm like, why not? Because he's sick. You're the most experienced one. Can you do him? I was like, I'm a midget compared to you guys. And he's like, well, no, it doesn't matter what size you are, as long as you can act it. I was like, yeah, look at my stockings and stuff. So I went back into the ship, but I didn't have enough time just to bring the costume with me and get dressed because it was that last minute. So I actually had to dress up on board the ship in secret and try to cover myself in a trench coat. So as I'm leaving the ship, the guys that are standing watch look over at me in a trench coat, and it's not really that cold, even though it's fall. It's not really that cold. So he goes, "Hold on, where you heading out tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm heading out tonight." And he's like, "Really?" And he goes, "You're walking kind of funny." I'm like, "Oh." I was like, "Well, I'm in a rush." He's like, "Yeah, I bet." He goes, "Wait, why don't you open up that trench coat?" I'm like, "Oh no." As I open it up, there I am in the corset, the underwear, the stockings. I wasn't wearing high heels. I was wearing regular shoes at the time. He was like, he looked over. He goes, "I thought so." And he goes, "Okay, close up, get out of here." And so,
Oh gosh, that had to have been really interesting and awkward at the same time.
well,
But he pulled it off. He looked really good. He knew his parts. And even though Frankie is supposed to be much taller than the other people, you did not feel that. You felt Frankie there on the floor. It's
That's
all
what
about
it
how
is.
you deliver it.
Yeah, that's what it is to be a cosplayer. It doesn't matter what you look like. Like if you're playing that role, if you're embracing it, then people notice it.
Yep.
Mhm.
But the awkward thing that came at that time, though, because remember, when you're participating, you're doing the full show.
Yeah.
And at the time, but being the Frankenfurter too, you had to initiate the virgins. And I were not boyfriend and girlfriend at that time. We were just friends.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, I'm going to share Rocky Horror so you get an idea of what we're talking about here.
It actually is a part of our history of cosplay, but keep going.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
that. Yeah. It's definitely one of those ones that has turned into a cult classic. And
it's been a cult classic for a while. But yeah, so the funny thing is that my girlfriend at the time, who I maybe been dating for more than a week, her first appearance to the show was that day that I happened to be Frankenfurter and I had to initiate her.
And that was also my initiation too, because I had seen it on video past couple of years, but I'd never actually gone to a floor show before until somebody said, "Hey, De Niro does it every year or every month," and I'm like, "Oh, I gotta go. And they're like, "Well, now you got to go up there and get spanked." Oh, with an oar. What? Okay.
And give them the lap dances and stuff too. That was.
That. You owe me a lap dance.
So I just want to touch on a little bit on explain a little bit more about what Rocky is, because I don't know if what do we call it in the current generation, like the newest one that's coming up? I don't know what they do anymore, if they're still live, because I haven't heard of any live ones locally. But basically, it was a movie made in the what year? 70s. Yeah, 70s. And then it became so huge that when they were showing it in the theaters, like they started doing this whole dress up thing, and now it's like you'll go live, so people will act it out on stage, and a lot of times they'll put it on the big screen as well, and the audience participates. Like they dress up, they bring things to throw, and the audience, like obviously all like stuff. Yeah, and you get up and dance and do the time warp, and it's just a really interactive experience. So it's actually a big part of cosplay history, because that was one of the few things that people would go and dress up as and kind of feel more comfortable at. So I've only ever been to one show. It was so much fun. I wish I want to go to more, but who knows what's happening in the future here. But yeah, even if you guys are in the younger generation, it's still really relevant, I think. Even more so now.
It's one of those things you gotta watch. Like at least I watch the movie like once a year Like it's just one of those things that you gotta do it.
I'm thinking they might have been exposed to it because Glee showed it. Glee's been that was like almost 10 years ago. Glee showed it. So, but yeah, definitely check it out if you guys can.
Yeah,
But I mean that's a solid segue into like the history of cosplay. We're gonna just kind of brush up on kind of where did it come from. Like I know Yaya talks a little bit about it. If you're interested, Yaya's book has a really good description of what it felt like going into this kind of cult like culture that didn't really have a big following, at least nothing like it is today. And it actually has a really decent history. I've done panels on the history of cosplay. These guys have done panels on the history of cosplay, so we all have a pretty good knowledge of how our favorite hobby came to be. I'm also a historian, so for me, finding the history of my favorite hobbies is just fun to do.
Yeah, so Yaya's book actually touches on her experience with the history of cosplay. She started in like 98, I think, 98 or 99. So this is really good too if you guys want to check it out. But I guess maybe I can touch on here a little bit if Sam will let me share my screen.
Do you have some of the slides, Jess?
Yeah, I'm gonna go here.
Let me know.
Oh, it's just the pictures. I shared it.
That's fine. Okay, here we go.
So this is an article from, oh my gosh, I can't remember all the details, but like the early 70s where a manga writer from Japan had visited the US, and in the US was the sci-fi convention, and he took these pictures.
His name was Nobuki Takashi. Nobuki
Takashi. And he actually
Takashi. I remember that.
Yeah, he actually encouraged people in the magazine to start doing this. So this is kind of the start of where cosplay became more popular. Let's see here. These are all American cosplayers. So this started.
Yeah, this was in California. I believe this was Sci-Fi Con. Though, yeah, the World Sci-Fi Con or something.
Yeah. So here's some older. These are from 70s cosplay, and it was so like obscure in the U.S. obviously because it was looked at as strange. We're still weirdos even today. So
he's actually he's the one who coined the phrase cosplay. He wrote about it in an article when he went back to Japan, and he called it cosplay in the article. And so that was the first time that terminology was ever used for this particular type of dress up.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
And there's some well-known names attached to this, like Wendy Penny, who is the creator, and you do know her.
I met her in person, and I may have given her a present. So.
Yes. So she's also was a cosplayer. She still kind of is, but she did Red Sonja, and she was phenomenal. And that was one of the earlier sci-fi conventions.
Yeah, because it started at World's Fair, and then World's Fair had so many people dressing up that they split off into like a sci-fi convention.
What year was it? Like 1950 or 1940?
It was in the 60s that they split off, I think, because it was, I want to say it was 62 or 63 that they split off, because the World's Fair, the first costume was in the 1930s. I want to say,
and these are the first cosplayers in record.
Yeah. And that was like 1935 or 36, right?
Yeah.
I remember the guy's name is something Forrest. I don't remember. Like it's been 2 years. Yeah, it's been like 2 years since I've done a panel. So.
For them.
I haven't been able to memorize anything. So this was kind of a fun little timeline that I kind of did. Obviously, the only photos that are mine are the last two. So you can see here 40s, 60s, 80s. The thousands is when I went to Anime Expo in 2003. And then the 2010s here at WonderCon. So kind of a cool like progression. You can see different use of materials, and different fandoms now have become really popular. So yeah, that's our little quick.
Yeah, I know Yaya also goes in depth in her book, kind of the split between the sci-fi and then the anime, and like where that happened, and kind of the difference between the two cultures before they came back together. I cannot recommend her book enough. It was a really fun read.
Yeah. It was really good.
So the two pictures that you posted of me in the beginning, one of them where I'm wearing a white dress, that was a Halloween. I had done the makeup for the Ginosaji. That was on the right-hand picture. That would have been my eldest son, Justin.
Let me see if I
did the hair for the pirate in the middle. Then there was me, and then my youngest son was Dread Pirate Roberts, because his name is Robert. So I was just dressed up like a tutu or a auntie from Hawaii kind of thing. And not many people here understood that. I too many mainlanders. It's fine.
I know that's just because I've been to Oahu and I've been to a couple of the outlying islands. So
Yeah.
I would
So
love to go to a
Saji
con.
he's easy to do. Saji was white face paint and black done, and you just give him a spoon and a black jacket and he just went around whacking the pirate there.
yeah, you don't have to start. That's the thing to show. Like everybody starts somewhere small, and I actually can. I'm gonna real fast find I've been downloading photos of my life. Anyways,
Well, so
oh
he
no,
turns out to be a furry. He's made his own costume now. So
It is really cool. I've taken some tips from Justin, because I have to say the people in the furry community are some of the most genius crafters I've ever met in my life.
yeah, he's got dragon wings that if he does a certain movement, they open up
So that's
and
They're
then
so
he
cool.
can bring them back down. He's made his own head with eyes that shift. So like
Ooh.
electronic eyes and stuff. Really cool stuff. He's been learning as he goes. So again, this still kind of follows with the whole maturing into cosplay because he'd been doing it since he was a kid.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and everybody starts somewhere different. I mean, my very first costume was my own version of a Diablo D3 Demon Hunter, which is right here. And I worked with leather for the first time. I worked with Warbler for the first time. I worked with foam for the first time. I spent $400 because I didn't know that Warbler was reusable, and I messed up a couple times.
Oh
no!
So you just threw it away?
Some of it until like I may have thrown away like a sheet's worth before my dumb brain went and decided to read the rest of the instructions and go, "Oh crap!"
Oh my god, that was like $50 you just threw away.
Oh, I know. My husband was like, "Well, things."
Well,
happen.
that's an interesting contrast, because some, like, that I'm sure Jinx knows the feeling, like, a lot of us who started kind of in the earlier years, we didn't have Warbler, we didn't have foam, like those type of things weren't part of the cosplay community yet. We had a lot of like cardboard and mostly fabric pieces. Like I didn't start building until recently. Sam, on the other hand, like you started when this was already a thing. Like it was already getting popular. There was a lot more experience. There was Warbler and foam that was just a normal resource, and so it's really interesting to see.
Fabric was easier too. Like I pretty much did most of my fabric shopping online or through like warehouses, and that made my life easier. All of this is the first year that I was cosplaying. I made all of these in the first year.
Wow.
So
are we okay to mention other podcasts?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so one that Steve and I kind of like to watch is Evil Ted.
Oh yeah, I like Evil Ted.
Evil Ted Smith.
And
he's super helpful.
The Durans doing the
Punish props.
Yeah, Punish props.
Oh yeah,
fantastic work.
They're
and
so awesome.
Books are really good, really in depth, really. They show you first, second, third, all the steps you need to take, and they're not that hard.
We're always like promoting books on our stream.
Yeah.
All the cosplay
and like now, not that it's a bad thing, like cosplay is so much easier to get, because even when I started, which wasn't even that long ago, like the idea of buying a costume really didn't exist. Like my whole outfit I bought, this is one of my laziest costumes, which is why I brought it with me. But like I didn't have to do anything. I just went and bought this, and I love the quality. It's really high. I've been wearing this all weekend because it's warm. But like before my very first cosplay, I wish so badly I had pictures, but I did Train Heartnet. Was my first like actual build of a costume that wasn't like a store-bought thing, but like I had to go to the thrift store, and thank God my grandmother was a seamstress and actually like was able to teach me things, because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what fabrics to use. I had no idea what stitching or techniques or how to use a sewing machine. Like I started from square one, but I had a really good teacher, which is why I felt like that costume looked good, even though it was like there wasn't a whole lot of resources. I actually have been thinking about redoing that costume just to see where like my progress has changed now that I know what I'm doing. Because guys, if you haven't, Black Cat, very old but an amazing manga and anime. It's one of my like classic favorites.
Absolutely.
It is awesome.
Yeah. So like when I started, my mom actually was the seamstress. My family, we're from the Philippines, so her family sewed, and they sewed her wedding dress and all this other stuff. And so she came here and she would sew stuff for us. Like she would sew me and my sister's clothes when we were little, our Halloween costumes she did. As I got older, prom, pageant gowns, and she sewed my sister's wedding dress. So she was amazing, and she passed away in 2012. That's why if you hear me saying past tense, but she in 2000. So my family are family of geeks. So the first San Diego Comic Con I went to was 1996. My brother, they're about 10 years older than me, so they were starting to go in their like late teens, early 20s on their own. So I don't know. My parents, they're awesome. They're like, let's have a family vacation and go to San Diego Comic Con. So we went to San Diego. Of course, we did a whole San Diego trip. So we went to the Comic Con one day.
Let me get I have photos of this somewhere. Hang on.
And then we went to other. And then we went to other, things around the city. So that was like my first taste into Comic-Con. And there I saw costumes. I was like, oh, that's cool. But I was like, how old was I? I can't remember. I was like 13. And I was like, nah, that's too weird for me. I was too cool. So the next year my sister and I went with just my brother and his friends with our parents. And then one of his friends actually was cosplaying. She had made a red Kii-Pao and dyed her hair red and was female type Ranma. And I was like, this is cool. So so when 2001 came around, I was, going through high school, getting a little more confident myself. I told my mom, I want to do this. She's like, yeah, let's do it. So she was so excited. She did a lot of the hard stuff for me. Like I was learning how to do things from her, and she would do more of the difficult stuff, like altering patterns and doing all the difficult like seams and stuff. So she was amazing. So this is San Diego Comic Con 2003. I'm there on the left as Yuri from Dirty Pair Flash. My sister was Kay.
Oh, wow.
And this was at San Diego Comic Con. Like there was actual space to take a group picture. So these are cosplayers I met on Cosplay.com. So that was our only mode of like social media was Cosplay.com, and I met them all. Actually, one on the right is oh my gosh, why can't I think of her name? I remember her cosplay name, Sana-chan. I'm still friends with her on Instagram. So it's really cool to see how we've progressed, and she still cosplays too. Now you went to the next one. That is Phoenix Cactus Comic Con.
Comic Con, right?
Yeah, it's the same company, 2004, and this was in a Mesa hotel. And that chick, I always say every time I see it, I'm like, she was way beyond her time. I have no idea who she is. I wish I did, but she looks so awesome. And there you can see I'm cosplaying a fan art version of Lum from Urusei Yatsura, which I guess was strange at the time because now it's like a popular thing. And I thought it was so cool. I was like, I don't need a green wig. I didn't like wigs back then, so I thought, oh, it'll be the same, whatever. So. But yeah, that's kind of like also as I'm going into cosplay, and that's Anime Expo 2004, I think. And of course, as I'm growing as well, because I'm doing cosplay in my early 20s, it's like, we know what our early 20s are like. We want to be cool and awesome and fit in and stuff. So I wasn't that adventurous with cosplay. I did like to do more obscure characters. I was kind of like, no, I don't want to do the popular characters. I don't want to be that person. Yeah. So that character there that I'm wearing is from a Japanese-only Sega Saturn video game. So that was pretty obscure. But so all my early 20 costumes were kind of these like, oh, this is fun, or this is sexy, or, whatever. And then as I was growing up and myself, I became less and less, concerned about what other people thought. And I just did whatever the hell I wanted, which is what you're supposed to do in life, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
So I feel like
step of maturity too. Yeah.
Right. I feel like as a cosplayer, I've matured in like the skills I learned and stuff, but I've always kind of just been that dork that just never cared. I had parents that I also like Jinx grew up in a family that was nerdy. Some of my earliest memories of my father is dubbing, because this was before there was a dub, of Slayers, but he would dub Slayers for me because I couldn't read the subtitles fast enough because I was an itty bitty. But like I feel like I also tune that to like why I can read so fast is because I had to learn how to read subtitles. But like I never cared. Like I embraced the cosplay culture and dressing up at a very early age. And like even in high school, I was lucky. I went to a pretty decent high school. I only had one or two moments where I ever like doubted being a cosplayer or had been picked on. My school was pretty great about it, but I was like the top of the nerds. Like I was the president of Japanese club, I was vice president of Dungeons and Dragons club, and I was the treasurer of the drama club. So I was just kind of always there in the school presence with all the nerdy stuff, always encouraging people to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So you are lucky, because when I was in high school in the early 2000s, we didn't even talk about it. Like I didn't.
Right.
I know. Like I introduced some friends into cosplay, and they were, you know, my geek friends only. And that was still new to them. So definitely now,
No,
like my therapist is like, "Oh, you cosplay?" I was like, "How do you?"
Right. Actually, my therapist does conventions and stuff, and it's very strange to know that we've seen each other before because he's a local, and I'm like, I know who you are.
Oh my god, that's insane! Wow.
So speaking of high school, ElfQuest was still in its prime, and I was like, I've got this white silk shirt. I can do cutter and go to school like that. And only a few of my friends were like, "Oh my god, ElfQuest, where's your ears?" And I'm like, I knew it was something. Dang it! But everybody else was looking at me all weird, and I'm like, whatever.
Like
you guys
back
are
then, cutting corners was like the thing. Whatever. I can't get access to ears. Whatever. You know, it was a lot harder to get supplies back then than it is now. I
You
mean,
had
we
to
have.
wait for Halloween.
Yes, wait for Halloween, or you only had like a limited number of supplies that you could use. Like, so I'm going to share this, Sam.
Okay.
Let me see.
Right here.
So this.
Also, thank you, Sarah. Yes, Black Cat's great.
So we had such a limited supply of supplies. We didn't have Arta wigs or Epic wigs or whatever.
Yeah.
So this was like one of 3 styles that was available. You can see on the right-hand side, it's curly. So it was a long curly wig. And for Yuri, I needed it to be straight with bangs. So I had taken like 1/2-inch strips and straightened them with a flat iron. Took freaking forever. So you can see there, it's completely straight now. And then I even cut bangs into it. And that was like what we had to do, you know. And it was hard to find information on how to do this with wigs. I remember I tried a couple different methods. I tried the hot water bath method, and that didn't work. And, you know, I tried the blow dry method, and it wasn't like now you can Google and YouTube will give you how to style a wig, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what we had to deal with back then. And you can see my mom back there. She's working on some sort of pattern there. She's so awesome. And we did things like, let me see if I can find here. Let me share this one. And I'll show you what we did with my sister's wig. That was a pain in the butt. Let's see. So I shared another one, Sam.
All right, hang on. Sorry, there we go. There we go.
Master of technology.
So,
Wow.
So her wig here, the
Wow.
K wig, is a blonde wig that we colored the bottom half with Sharpies, which is the worst thing to do now because Sharpies do so much. But that's what we had, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and
I've done Sharpie wigs. Yep.
yeah, so that's a Sharpie wig, which nowadays you could probably even buy a wig like that. Or you would just take 2 and like sew it together. Like we didn't really know that kind of stuff. And that's San Diego Comic-Con 2003. So you can see this is the lobby. So you can see how empty the lobby is right now. But that's kind of what we went through. And my sister, it's so funny because she's not a cosplayer, but she cosplays whenever there's a group cosplay or something. So I had enlisted her to be Kay, and I think that might be her first cosplay. And she was like, "Oh my God, what am I wearing?" So she's
I
definitely
can't believe you talked Liz into that. Like,
yeah.
time.
I know she's very like reserved. She's like, okay, I'll wear it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
What did you have to give her in return?
Nothing. She was like, that's fine. Yeah. So and she
Nice.
Very cool.
so often. Yeah. So
My siblings are all like, "You want me to do what? All right. What are you gonna do for me in return?"
I mean, as we mentioned, like my
Yeah.
family was all geeks. Like here, I'll share another picture here. I'm sorry, I don't want to be like sharing all me, but but it's just
It's fine. I don't have any pictures from when I started.
We'll talk. I'm going to share a couple photos, and then we'll talk a little bit about like resources that we used throughout the ages that are still around, and like stuff like that, and then kind of overcoming any like ageism and how to just really kind of encourage people to cosplay no matter who you are.
regardless of your age. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is San Diego Comic-Con 2004. That's my brother. So my brother's 10 years older than me. He was always into anime. You know, in the Philippines, they had a lot of stuff on TV. So he watched like Astro Boy and stuff. And when we came over to the States, of course, we just kept watching it. So he's the kind of the main driver of the whole geek of our family, but now we're all geeks. So I actually got him to dress up as Ranma. So that's his first cosplay. My mom made his shirt, and he was big into Bruce Lee, so he already had the pants and the shoes. And then I was dressed up as my favorite character, Ukyo from Ranma 1/2. So, and you can see again, like how empty that lobby is. That's in the middle of San Diego Comic-Con. Like, you know, it's.
Do you
crazy.
kind of miss that where it's kind of nice? You got a lot of.
I do.
The last one I went to was 2012, and that was way too much for me. And I have not been back, and I don't know if I want to be back.
Emerald City, like when I went with Sam that first time, I was just shocked because that was the biggest convention I'd ever been to, and it was a lot. Like, as somebody who usually does a lot of like smaller hometown cons, like SoccerCon is usually my biggest one I do a year. Like Emerald City was crazy.
Yeah, we were outside of one of the Emerald cities for 1 year, and we were just doing Pokemon Go. You know?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
People, and every time a big baddie would show up in one of the gyms, we're like, oh yeah, there's going to be a bunch of people there. Let's get in, and you know. And that's my favorite date, to be honest, is just walking around doing Pokemon Go.
Well, that's another thing when we talk about growing into cosplay is like companies realize this, you know, it took a little bit of time, obviously, because, you know, San Diego Comic-Con started in like the 1970s, but companies are now banking on this, you know, it's like, okay, it's becoming a thing. Pokemon Go, they did special events at conventions where you could get only specific Pokemon. I know for SDCC, they were doing the unknowns with the letters SDCC.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's amazing how it's like, why not? You know, the people want it and you make money, you know?
The new Persona 5 game, well, I guess it's not new anymore. Wow. But the last game that came out, it was really cool. I was reading some articles on it, and the character design artists actually were thinking about cosplayers when they were putting these designs together. The article is a really cool article talking about like how they came up with some of the visuals of the characters and the outfits, because they honestly were keeping cosplayers in mind when they were building this. They were trying to find a way to make an iconic character that was doable for the masses. And I that was like shocking that I'm reading about a video game that I adore and played, and here we're talking about cosplay because that's what we were really focused on when we designed this character.
Yeah, there's a lot of video game companies before they start releasing certain things, they actually have like guidelines to how to create
reference kits.
Yeah, these particular characters.
And that's advertising for them. You know, like people running around in their costumes, like that's amazing. Like Overwatch has like reference kits for all their characters. Like they want to dress up as that. So it's amazing how far it's come, and it's obviously a lot more common now. God, when people would find out, like, 'cause I used to work at the airport in my early 20s, and it's like I never told anybody. And when people find out, they'd be like, "What?" People that went to the airport were a lot more open in general, but they still were like, "What are you talking about?"
It's definitely that's the thing too, is thinking about maturing in cosplay. It's like if you started in middle school or high school and you're so used to doing it, right? And you're kind of in that like, I'm cool, I'm a kid in school, and then you graduate, you start getting a job, and you have to determine who should know this. Like, and I can't like I work in IT, I'm in cybersecurity, and like pretty much my whole team knows because I literally post in all of our Zooms and company like profile pictures my cosplay. I'm like, I'm a nerd. Hi. And it's kind of like one of those things that I preface, like I did it on purpose though, because when I take time off, I let them know I'm generally traveling. I am very much unavailable. If you try to get a hold of me, you'll have to wait till the evening.
Yeah. And so like when we also talk about maturing to cosplay, when I mentioned in my early 20s, you know, I did it for fun. I did it to be with friends. I did it, you know, for whatever. I would just throw together costumes like Sexy Moogle, you know, who didn't have their sexy something in that, you know, back then. But as I got older, I took a break. I moved overseas. And as I got older, I was like, wow, I really want to like be more creative with this. So that around 2014, 2013, I started doing actual stuff with my cosplay, like hand painting things and like patterning things. And so that was my growth into cosplay, was around that time. Even though and people are like, oh, you've been doing it for so long. It's like, well, yeah, I was doing it for 13 years up to that point. Right. Yeah. But I didn't care, you know, it was just a fun thing to do. But then from 2014 and on, I took it so seriously that I did not want to buy any costumes. You know, I wanted to style and do everything that I could on my own. And I wasn't even into competing. I only competed because of Sam. So
see, I competed my very first costume, and I didn't know it was a competition. I thought it was just a fashion walk-on thing. And I was going to get feedback, right? No, it turned into a competition. All of a sudden, I won $500, and I was like, "What?"
Nice. So
almost covers the cost of the costume.
Yeah. So I
can
would
we also talk about the cosplays that we are looking forward to making as mature players?
Yeah. So like, real quick, I'm going to share some of my growth real fast, and then we'll talk about what we're looking forward to in the new year to make, and what resources, like what tools are now coming out that we can use for it. So real fast, I'm just going to share with you guys. Oh wait, I should probably open the image first. That would make my life easier.
I want to touch on one thing when we talk about age, because there is kind of like some touchy subjects when it comes to age. It's like, okay, when you're a certain age, do you no longer play the characters that are like underage? Like, it's still,
I think if you're under like if the character's under 18, I think that it's okay if you're doing it tastefully. I don't like it when people take characters that are like 12 years old in the cartoon or comics, and they dress them up in like really revealing things, and that's mostly just because I'm like, they're 12 years old, or they're 9 years old, or they're a freaking baby. Like, if you're a baby in a diaper, that's hilarious. But like, but I mean, I've seen like these characters that are like in My Hero, and they're male characters, and they're like maybe like 15, 16 years old, and they're all shirtless, and I'm like, this is weird to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I cosplay the adults from My Hero.
They're thinking it's 10 years from that time. Yeah, that's it. And they're much more older. Yeah.
Well, the age of consent in Japan is younger, so obviously
and I think it's just being careful too, like especially if you're doing like characters of color or other things like that. Just don't change your skin tone. If you're gonna age characters that are they're like younger, very young, be careful. Just kind of think about it like, okay, if they're under 18, maybe I shouldn't have them run around in lingerie.
Yeah. Well, I use cosplay as a way of making other kids comfortable. So like when in the first robotics competitions, we always have a theme. And a lot of the volunteers, especially since I play a key volunteer role, to where I'm inspecting their robots just to make sure that they're following by the rules. So I come up in regular clothes, and you're like, oh my God, this person's going to look at our robot and tell us that it's bad. So, so it's like one of the competitions. I'll share a picture of that here. One of the competitions, it was a steampunk themed. There we go. Share that one there. So it was a steampunk theme.
Oh, cool.
And we actually got a pith cap, and we had a friend use a pattern that we got for a 17th century British officer's coat, and we modified that to make it work for the robotics competitions.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's a really good way to do it.
More comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. It makes the kids like feel a little less out there, or a little less like, oh, that's an adult who's going to be judging my product. It's more like, oh, hey, they're having fun as much as we are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And this thing I'm wearing right now, this was one of the competition uniforms that I was wearing for a video game themed. It's called Power Up.
See, that's actually why I like doing video game cosplay, just because video games speak across generations.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like one of the things I really enjoy doing. So like, this is what I started in 2014. And then let me go here. I'm going to go here. So I was doing this in 2014. Where is the one that I'm sharing? There's, wait, oh man, you closed on me. Why you hate me? Hang on. Let me not like make it hate me anymore.
Like, and on that is like, I stopped watching anime when I got, into my early 20s, and I'm sad because I want to get back into it, and I see so many cool cosplays from animes that I just don't know. And that's kind of like where, because anime, I'm always like, I want to watch it. Since I have watched some anime based on cosplays I've seen too.
Like this one in the middle is Yin from Darker Than Black, and I had so many people that were so curious because of the mask and the cat I was carrying around that they went and watched it and loved it. And I was like, yeah, it's and I mean, I've done that too, where like I did Surge from X-Men, and she's got like only 4 or 5 outfits. She's not a very commonly known X-Men. She's an Earth 616. And so like, I was like, I really want to do some of these, like D. Grayman, Lena Lee, some of these older retro, like Magic Knight Ray Earth. And so I mean, why not do some of these things? And I mean, this is where I started with 2014, and I started slowly but surely growing, maturing, learning. I used found objects for a while, I learned how to bleach jeans so I could bleach the X onto here. I started getting better at making bodysuits and realized that my favorite material in the world is spandex. So I love spandex. I made spandex leggings and spandex suits, and we did Yuri and Kay as well. Yay!
I love that costume. I want to do it again.
I definitely want to do. I want to do one of their. They have a couple different ones from like the series that are fun. And I was showing you like this is like where I started with my Nisha from Borderlands, and then the next year I upgraded it, and it looks like completely different just because I changed a lot and I got better at painting, and like I redid the shirt and I improved the jacket and added more cell shading, and it's a growing process, right? You have to learn along the way. And we were talking about ElfQuest. This is Caslin from the High Ones, so yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's really like it's about embracing new techniques and being bad at new techniques.
Yeah.
I was primarily a sewer. I was a seamstress. I learned everything. That's because I had a teacher who taught me how to sew, and so I was comfortable doing it. It was something I knew how to do. And I really didn't embrace doing weapons or foaming or clay or anything above that until I started using the workshop. Because Steve and Amy have been so great about embracing things and learning how to use things and having fun with it. And so I learned at a much slower pace, and like I still consider myself fairly new at workshop stuff, but I love that building. And now I'm at the point where I prefer to use foam and work with clay or wigs or something outside of fabric than I do fabric. Like fabric now I'll sit at my sewing machine and be like, I don't want to do this. Oh, this is going to be so tedious. But like I sit down with foam and I get super excited about carving and painting and sealing. Like it's something I've learned to become very passionate about, even though I still am considerably not very good. I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn in that.
With every failure, you learn something new. Oh, I am not going to do that again. Or
right.
Let's use less glue.
Sam,
And
what was
so
that
I'm so proud of my growth as a cosplayer, because like some of those cosplays that Sam showed earlier, like my builds, like Rom was a really big one for me, because he had a sword and he had a crown that I had to build and a bunch of like just little tiny things I had to learn. And I did multiple types of techniques before I ended up with the end product. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes doing something over and over and trying different techniques until you get that final product that you're like, hey, I like how that turned out, and I'm going to use that one for the next convention.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Like the year before I did like a thing Krios for Mass Effect, and I liked most of it, but it had issues. So I went in and I improved the tailoring. I fixed up the mask. I improved the gloves, and it fit a lot better the next year. So like you have to make changes over time, and that's okay. Yeah. And like we have these evolutions here at the bottom, and I made my entire outfit. I was Leafeon. I helped with Evie. I made a lot of the ears. Like I cut them out in advance, and then I handed them off to people to build their own kind of like structures off of them. I made Evie's ears. That was the first time learning how to use Wonderflex and Warbla's Cobra Cast art. And then we did use Wonderflex, and we also used Foss-Shape. And some of us painted, some of us attached, took fur rugs from IKEA, cut them up, glued them on, airbrushed them. Some of us, like Jinx here, made Umbreon's ears by stuffing them and then having wires inside. So there's lots of different ways. I also had to learn how to like sew some like sheer fabrics because I made Vaporeon's outfit. I helped Espeon make her outfit, okay, so basically it was Vaporeon, Jolteon, Eevee, Espeon, and Leafeon that I all had my hands in. So.
You did Umbreon's bodysuit.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I made a bodysuit that was strapless. I did not know how to do that either, so that was a learning experience. So it's all over time, and now like this is kind of where I'm at now. I've made a bathing suit for the first time this year and modeled one, which is super nerve-wracking for me, but I feel like as you get more confident in cosplay too, it starts to show in your posing and in your physique and like your expressions. And so even if you're wearing a costume that makes you uncomfortable, if you put some of that uncomfort into it and then you make it look awkward, you're just like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And like Sam was showing some of my pictures earlier. Like those early pictures, I was obviously not posing. I was just at a convention, just kind of standing there rigidly. But now you look at my newer stuff, like holo, and I'm in this forest. I actually went to a local park and did a full photo shoot for my holo multiple times. You learn not only how to build the costume, but how to wear the costume and how that confidence shows through. And that's just something you gain through experience of wearing and acting. I take a lot of my acting comes from classes I've taken, I'm sure.
One of the best things I really like about cosplay is I can take a few pieces, like this cloak, this mesh here, and depending on how I'm carrying myself, how I'm portraying myself, I can do so many things with this. I could be the weeping widow. I could be the creepy crone. I could be a witch. I could be whatever I want to be with this.
Yep, one
And
wig,
it's
one
just
veil, one hat, one hoodie. You can transform it to just about anything.
Yep.
pretty much. And it's fun. And everybody looks at you and you're just like, yeah.
So we have some comments, and there's quite a few of them. But Rob says you're never too old to cosplay, and learning to up your gear is a part of the fun experience. It teaches you lessons. Plus, there's some things I've learned about heat guns and other things that now I can apply to my house. So cool. And then Sarah said that
our workshop is forever evolving.
Yeah,
that's another thing.
Yeah. So her first made cosplay is actually the Magic Night Ray Earth gathering in 2015. I forgot we did that for Magic Night Ray Earth, and it was amazing to see like all the costumes there, because I didn't think there were going to be a lot of people at Magic Night Ray Earth because it was so retro. And I was like, oh my gosh, like 5 people showed up and we were all wearing different characters, and I'm like, it happened. So, that was really cool because, you know, now retro's coming back. A lot of like the animes and comics that I consider older are starting to make a comeback. They're having new editions or deluxe editions or art books and things to try and get them back into the market. And it's really, really cool. And then that just means that some of these costumes that used to be obscure are now like, oh, this is so mainstream. Why are you doing that? You're like, yo, I did this like in 2014 before this came back.
And I just want to make one more comment before we close up. I know, gosh, we can go on forever about this. Like, remember
we can talk a little bit longer today if we want to cover some things before we go. That's totally fine.
I just wanted to touch on this, like in geekdom in general, in fandom in general, like those fans are now grown up, you know, like from the 70s, the kids that waited in line to watch the first Star Wars. I mean, look where we are now. Like those kids can afford, you know, like $300 lightsabers now, and we can live out our geek fandoms. Like once I got my own job and my money, I collected things. Like now I can enjoy it fully, because when I was in my early 20s, I was like waiting tables. I'm like, okay, I got $50, let's go drink tonight, you know. But now I can enjoy it, and so can all the other adult geeks, because you never lose your interests, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting for like me, a lot of that like early 20s, a lot of my geek friends are having kids. We have these kids that are now being born in these geekdom houses that are being raised with more video games and more anime.
That's how I raised my boys. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, I play Don't Starve Together with my 10-year-old niece and my 18-year-old nephew and my brother. You know,
it's becoming definitely a mainstream, which is great. It's something that we don't have to hide anymore. We're not quiet about. We don't have to walk around in a trench coat.
I mean, yes, because we're geeks, we're gamers, we watch anime, we exposed our sons to this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
We wanted them more into the sciences than anything else. So we really had learning hands-on. You don't know something? Hey, let's go to the library because you can find so much. And we did.
Well, I feel like when people say like, oh, that's for kids, it's like, well, no, because like if there's something that you liked as a kid that you still like now, you know, it's like there's people that there are adults in every single, you know, as there's adult skateboarders, you know, there's
happiness shouldn't be defined by your age.
Yeah,
so exactly.
It's whatever you like, and you can grow with it. And only because cosplay is kind of a newish thing, you know, it's not something that's like cars. Everyone's always loved cars or music, you know, it's not something that's so, you know, out there. People still kind of think of it as like a kid's thing because we started it as kids and now we're adults. Like, that's it.
I think cosplay is more accepted instead of being new.
Now it is,
Yeah, because I mean, I remember back when I was younger, I went to a Star Trek convention and I wasn't even in my teens at the time. And people were dressed up in Starfleet uniforms.
Yep. And they were like the full bodysuits that are like, I've heard people complain about how itchy and hot they were, and they were like, it was like you need someone to go and help you get out of it to go to the bathroom.
And the ears back then, oh my God, they were horrid. They were horrid compared to what we have now. Yeah, I mean, they were these little plastic things because I had a set, and I was guilty of wearing one around. But they used to clip around the back of your ears. They didn't even paste, and they used to just flop around. And then when you would do your thing, you shake your head, your ear would fall off. Yeah, it's like
we come a long way.
Oh yeah.
I'm only half Vulcan, so yeah.
So well, we can start wrapping up because I know we're a little bit over. So
I just want to I want to say that this for me this was when we did Yaya, there was a comment, somebody said something along the lines of like, aren't you too old to cosplay? And I feel like this episode's been a long time coming because I saw that comment and I'm like,
no, we're not too old to cosplay. You can be any age. I have met the oldest cosplayer I met, 92, and she was amazing. And she was in a wheelchair, and she was owning it. She was doing this Game of Thrones thing, and then the next day she did Wonder Woman, and she's like, I don't care. She had a little stroller, and she was going. She was like, LA Comic-Con, and she's like, I got this. I can't remember. It was like Ethel or something, but it was amazing how sassy she was. I was just like, yes.
Man,
don't want to bring down your happiness. So Amy and Steve, where can people reach you? Like, if you're because I know you're in the Pacific Northwest, so if people want to reach you for information or growth or meet with you, what events do you like to attend when it's not a pandemic?
They could reach me by email because I haven't really set up anything because I was talking about this with Aspen, and I was talking about this with Amy. It was like trying to start up something like because Amy and I we use our gamer tags as our regular name, so be like Ferret and Bastet. So I was thinking about doing like a fab props type thing.
Oh, that's cute.
Awesome. So what email can they? What's the email address they can reach you at?
You can reach me at ferretlxix.ss@gmail.com.
Is it Ferret with 2 R's and 1 T?
Yep.
Great.
And everything I know is because of these people. So if you ask me questions, ask them questions because they know more about the topics.
I
gotta.
Some things you definitely are a little ahead of us.
But a lot of stuff. Like Steve's been in the workshop actually working on a project that we've been working on together. I'm so very excited because we're using a new product called Creature Skin. We're playing with the idea of making Dobby's skin as kind of more like essentially like a silicone sleeve. And so I've just been watching Steve just all excited because next time I go to the workshop, I get to play with that. But like that's the whole joy of like I have awesome teachers that are older than me, who have the experience, who have the knowledge, who have more schooling than me, who can sit down and teach me things. And like always embrace somebody, whether they're younger than you or older than you. If you have somebody who's willing to sit down and show you a technique or learn it with you, like this is new for both of us, and so we're learning and doing samples and stuff just to see what we can mix into it, what is the best thickness for it. Like this is a learning curve for both of us, but 90% of the time I'm in the workshop going, I don't know what to do, and they're teaching me stuff. And so like embrace the idea of somebody can teach you something. Always how does that quote go? Like never be the smartest one in the room. Like always embrace people around you that you can learn from because you'll only ever get better.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. And like, I mean, I've learned things from lots of different people. Like I had a teenager come up with a brilliant idea for fake boobs, and I was like, thanks. So I don't have to wear the 3-pound drag queen boobs all the time. Cool. But yeah, no, there's always going to be someone that comes up with something that's like either less expensive or faster or easier for you. And so I agree with you there. Joining like cosplay forums or going online, looking for areas, groups in your region that meet and discuss, even if it's all digital. That's a great way to start learning. So don't be afraid to do that. So I did post how to reach Steve and Amy. Their email is in the chat, and it's on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So it should have a comment there for all of you logged. We do stream to all 3 platforms. Now, Kii-Chan, remind us of where we can find you as well.
You can find me at Kii-Chan Cosplay at Instagram or Kii-Chan Cosplay on Facebook as one single word. I love answering questions, so go ahead, fill up my DMs. I love talking about cosplay and advice and tips. And thank you so much for coming to the show.
Yeah,
Thank
Jinx?
you.
Thank you for having
for
us.
having us.
Yeah,
You
thank
can
you.
find me on my website is jinxcosplay.com, and on social media on Instagram and Facebook it is the Jinx Cosplay. Oh, and Twitch. I changed my Twitch name, the Jinx Cosplay. And then as well as just to remind you guys, CosTalk Live, we do stream every Sunday at 12 p.m. Mountain, except for next weekend. Next weekend or the next 2 weekends, Sam?
We're doing next weekend. Whoever's available. Remember, we're doing cosplay cocktails.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. So we will be drinking at 12 p.m. On Sunday after Christmas. So we do stream on, Sam said, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Please share us out. If you guys have any ideas, please let us know.
And for
broadcast.
Yeah.
And for my Pacific Northwest friends, that will be 11.
11
p.m.
Pacific. Yeah.
11 to 12. So there will be some non-alcoholic cocktails on the menu. So like Jinx mentioned, next week we are streaming at 12 p.m. Mountain Time, and Mountain Standard, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, and we're doing cosplay and cocktails. So we're just telling stories, and we're going to tell you about our favorite cosplay-themed cocktails. They may be alcoholic. They may not be alcoholic. We'll give you the ingredients and let you know how to make them. Some of them maybe just bought it off the shelf. Super easy. Others are going to be concoctions. So be prepared for a couple days after the Christmas day to see maybe us a little tipsy. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that 1 hour doesn't cause it, but we don't know.
And a few more plugs, guys. We do have Instagram as well. We don't do Instagram Live, but please follow us on Instagram, CosTalk Live. And again, one more shout out to our sponsor, cosplaycompany.com. They're based in the UK, and they are amazing. Like their materials, like real material. Like this is an actual cheerleader outfit. I could go to high school in this. And you can use code CosTalk Live for 15% off. And right now they're doing a whole deal with a free Sabrina dress. So check them out, cosplay.com. Yeah. We thank them so much for their support.
And then for me, you can just
cosplaycompany.com.
the cosplaycompany.com. For me, you can just reach me at ThermoCosplay.com. I've got everything there. I have tutorials, events, portfolio, whatever you need, it's there. So thank you again, Steve and Amy, for joining us today, and we'll hopefully have you back in the future. Oh yeah, and then Yaya Hans. Dang it, I can't point right. Anyway,
right, no, it's backwards to us. So
yeah. Anyways, so thank you all for joining us today. We're going to wrap up again. There is no try all the time. What? Anyways, and then there is no limit to happiness when it comes to your age. So do whatever makes you happy, regardless
Just bank
of
account. Just to limit your bank account.
Right.
That's it.
Well, that's fine. Then you just go to thrift stores.
Right.
Exactly.
So, all right, thank you, everybody. We're going to be signing off, but thank you for joining us today. Bye, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Happy